Okay, so we're getting back here again to understanding more about our economic criminology systems and about quantum city intelligence, and we're going to move over to a deeper understanding in dealing with basically global convergence intelligence. And this is when we're going to be dealing with things like the mindsets involving the different types of sources and different types of variances of poisoning, of how information is tainted, because we're working with quantifying so that we can understand it with true core logic on what these various parties have done to diabolically oppose the Constitution of the United States, because they're attacking it. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to wedge their way in deeper and deeper to get into government, So it's crucially important to understand more about how these matrices end up converging into these different areas. So if we're looking at the convergences, we also want to understand how they also end up basically infiltrating other key areas of basically our LM cores, our language model cores, and the ways to catch these different types of algorithms and whatnot. It's very complex to try to understand how all these waves are coming into effect, and they're basically going to be into getting detected. So we have to end up working with having abilities to make these synthesized detection systems and everything respective to understanding the model capabilities and intelligence of the models, as well as being able to monitor and understand which things are in spec versus which things are out of spec. So we're going to end up having, some of you probably are not familiar with understanding some of the stuff on how different types of language models are exhibited and how you can basically set different ways of understanding what it is, explain what it is, explain how it works, explain how the different types of interrelationships are going to happen. And so you have to work with these things in different sections and develop them, and then eventually blend them all into hopefully master language constructs that will work. So this is when you end up working with all these neat little things like quantum asset synthesis engines to be able to get all these things, to get all their matrices together properly so that they're going to end up working together. So, when we're going to be working with all different types of assemblages, as we're working with all these different types of line codes and what's going to be condensed in the line codes and what all the various values are and how they can change, it's really complex to be able to have all of these items and work with the symbols and be able to isolate them and do the tech work on them and understand what you're working with in the sections and what they're supposed to do. So you have to have a way to look at these as a master tactical table understanding and understand how to go from these different screens so that you can analyze your tactical intelligence command center modeling of everything and be able to understand what's going on as you're going to make your ultimate AI core system and be able to work with it. And you're working with all the different types of world inputs, and you got all these different things you have to be able to work with, and it is pretty. So you need to be able to work with your different cities and understand different things that are happening respective, for instance, demographic attacks, for instance, how people are destabilizing things, how it basically works, and how different people's lives are going to end up in red zones because the taxes overlap, and it's making intentionally, it's making it impossible. There's no way these people can possibly survive these massive demographic attacks. And that's the way they were designed going all the way back to the Royal German Empire and the beginning of these different things, because destabilization is part of what they're trying to do. They're trying to destabilize people because they want power over people. And so they want to be able to destabilize people's lives, their businesses, and of course then governments, and take things over. This is what communism and socialism do, because they diabolically oppose and they want to put a dictatorship in. Now, having a proper way to explain all of these types of demographics is something that we have to have all the way down to basically teach our kids. We've got to have the model systems to be able to explain how everything works, how destabilization works, how you have overlapping demographics, how all of this works. And we have to have this for our kids to be able to understand the good versus the bad. It's just that simple. So creating the proper type of understanding for your kids is crucial, because your kids have to be able to understand these different mindsets and what's going on with all these different people, and understand the differences of how modeling works, to see the financial cogs of how things are actually going to work and what happens as a negative effect when you do certain things. There's a cause and effect. And all this is quantifiable. It's all true core mathematics. It's all quantifiable. And now we have a new series of devices to be able to convey this in an on-demand, high-speed manner if we work with making the new proper models correctly. And this will get us to basically working with the ultimate understanding and goals, because we want the providence engine to work properly. We want to be able to find the sourcing and find the solutions and work towards the ultimate type of realities that are needed to understand. So we have to do this at all levels. There has to be a level, again, right down to your kids. And of course, for me, it hurts when I have people that keep destroying my archives and all of my high-end research. And there's all these people who don't understand, and a bunch of people that, oh, that's over my head. I don't know how to help you with that. Oh, that's great. But look, what we have to do is this. We have to go after these people who stole this stuff and attacked violently. And this is, well, but we're prevented, the hierarchical people have prevented us from doing this. See, this is where you get the criminal intent, when you have literally policy after policy that is written, and what it actually is a confession in writing. It's like, wait a minute, you wrote that? Yeah, this diabolically opposes the Constitution of the United States. This is a confession of treason. That's exactly what some of this stuff is that these people have been doing. So we have to work with this. We have to be able to work with this and understand these demographic attacks and destabilization, and work with the various type of simulations. So we're going to be able to understand what's going on with the variances in all of our city activity, what it should be doing, what it's not doing, and then realize that as we run into evidence, we have to prosecute people to the fullest extent when we catch them diabolically opposing the Constitution and attacking it. So in order to bring a proper people's future engine, we have to understand that we have to have the ability to detect certain types of activity by people, and then we have to arrest them. When you detect people committing mass economic sabotage, that's treason. You have to prosecute them for treason, because there's 6 billion people in the world. Do the math real quick. How many intelligent people are in this country? And we're grossly outnumbered. So we can't allow people to claim falsely that they're loyal to the Constitution of the United States, when the reality is they're not loyal to the Constitution of the United States. And basically, they're involving themselves in horrible activities and things that are ridiculous to basically our existence. So the modern economic balance and the logic of the true core system is something that becomes the ultimate engine detection system that helps you and your kids learn to move forward with the best possible options. It's called remove the woke. Let's move forward with the constitutional purity being restored. So that means we have to think about things. We have to be able to source our base principles, understand the distortion factors when we detect them, and then go back into our restoration actions that we're going to need to deal with the problem. Now, one of the best ways to do this is to work with different types of models and situations, which are games, say. So anywhere from games, from role-playing games, which can be very fun, by the way. This helps teach range and acting and all kinds of stuff. It's great for entertainment. And you can do it with cards. So literally you can train your kids at the earliest levels to understand mathematics, basically. True mathematics, true economic engine understanding about colonial constitutional capitalism, because that's what we have to do to repair our country. There's no way about it. So we're talking about a restoration of master cognitive command abilities. And that means we're going to have centers that have true core logic in them. That means we have to have properly built language models. This is not exactly the easiest task to do. I'm one of the few people on the planet that even understands how to do it. Because a lot of people, they don't have a clue how to properly purge data and use data correctly. And it starts a lot by basically, you have to be the guy called Michael Grassberry. You have to grasp the berries, so to speak. So, yeah, we're going to be working with quantitative criminology modules involving mindsets, because it's the mindsets that we have to understand and be able to detect. So if we're working with different types of master cognitive systems, we're literally getting to the point where we're going to have devices are getting cheaper, and we're going to be able to do things fantastic. We're going to be able to test our kids and have our kids have their heads scanned and see if they have emotional imbalances. Give them certain actual tests for them to manipulate things and see where their sharpness levels are. This is crucial to understand more than just whether or not they have coordination, but to understand where the various other areas of their minds are at. And we're at a brand new discovery level of where this technology is going to come from. And we also are going to be left with people coming into the country sometimes. When we have people come into the country to test their kids, are their kids safe to be around our kids? That's a big question. Do you want to bring kids in that have been around diabolical communism and seeing blood and murder and all kinds of weird stuff, and maybe their heads are programmed? Because that's like exposing your kid to a Manchurian candidate. I don't know if some of you can understand that. So you got a lot of risk levels that you have to be able to deal with at these various levels. And as the equipment is going to get basically more and more available to us because it becomes cheaper, we have to move and work with it. So some of the realities here concerning working with quantum criminology is really crucial to understand how that's going to go, how the technology is going to change, how we get into quantum resolution qualities. It's very deep. It's very intense to do that. But we have a lot of stuff we can do stuff with here now today. And basically, we have a huge backlog of people. We have 6 billion people in the world. We're far less than the United States. We have a bunch of people running around being diabolically opposed to the Constitution, and we've been far too tolerant when we catch these people. And I'm talking mostly about people in government. When you catch people in government that are actually diabolically opposed to the Constitution, you have to do more than just slap their hands. Some of these people have involved themselves in treason, and we need to stand up and say, you have to come with us. You've committed treason, and you have to be held accountable. I'm not joking about this. This is not a game. We have to treat this like it's not a game. We have to be able to deal with this situation and understand how it's crucial for us to get a better hold of what's going on and protect people who have the right brains, because I don't think a lot of you really understand what's been going on with people that have been coming under attack all over the country, especially as we focus on California. So myself as a candidate, for instance, I'm the guy who came up with a series of plans. I come under attack in previous elections. So we have article violations. That means these other parties are disqualified. Well, the justice system won't protect they will not adhere to the Constitution. And the courts don't want to do it either. So I'm going in filing cases. I'm trying to get a hold of attorneys. What do you say when the entire state bar of California is full of a bunch of people who are cowards? When you literally list cases, hey, these are great cases, and these people don't call you back. Or they call you back and it's like, well, actually, we're accident attorneys. Were you in any car wrecks? And it's like, are you joking me? You're going to call me up. You want to hear all about my case. I don't know who you are. I don't know if you're a spy or what it is. I've had people violent. I've had people shooting at me. This is a RICO situation, and no, the private attorneys don't want to really do what's supposed to be criminal law, but you can do criminal RICOs privately. And there's a lot of different step-ups that some people don't understand. I was forced to file certain key protective documents and claim panel rights as a federal candidate. And these are very high powers. And again, you have people that they are blatantly in dereliction of duty respective to these powers, these special constitutional powers afforded to us by our forefathers to protect the Constitution, to protect the nation. And in order to do this, people have to cooperate more. And it's not very fun when you find a lot of people who don't want to cooperate, And here we have, at the bottom, if you're looking at the image right now, on the bottom we've got 18 to 120. Recently what happened is, in other words, I wanted to do a massive series of silver commemorative coins for California. As running as gubernatorial candidate. I come under violent attack. I'm losing an entire fleet of vehicles. And I run as two candidates. I run as two candidates. So I did president. I was running as governor and president candidates basically. And this is the situation. Just on my commemorative coin plan alone, I was going to begin buying silver at $18 an ounce. And it ended up going to 120 recently, which means just the plan that I wanted to do only with commemorative coins would have entirely bailed out financially the entire state of California. The entire state. So if you're looking at the genius factor, there's your quantitative math for you people right there. Right there. Who's the guy for the job? Well, obviously I'm the right guy for the job. Nobody comes close to a quantitative comparison of who would run the state better from a standpoint of economic designs, economic running, and repairing the justice system and repairing the education system. But see, the thing is people don't like me. Socialists don't like me. Communists don't like me. Marxists don't like me. And these are the people who have been attacking. And you have a lot of people that are afraid of losing their jobs. And so they get ordered by the state not to do their job. And it's a problem. And there's a lot of these people, a lot of private conversations, and they don't want to be in the position that they're in, is what they're saying. They're turning state's evidence. I can't tell you how many of them, I can't go into certain things, but they're turning state's evidence, many of them. They're afraid for their retirement, their family, this and that. So I want to take care of all of that because everybody's getting ripped off. In the beginning, I mentioned people were getting ripped off. It's massive. You're talking about the average police officer, firefighter, civil servant is basically missing for sure 100% a guaranteed 7 new home construction plan for their life. You're talking about 7 years to essentially to retirement. Instead of understanding the beginning of our country, longevity was 38 years of age. That was it. The statistical average, 38 years of age. Now it's 78 years of age. But guess what? They now want you to work 42 years. 42 years. That's 4 years longer than the total longevity, the total lifespan of the beginning of the country. Mathematically, it's impossible for these various people to justify what they've done. They've decided to create a system of people to be slaves, well, some of them, and rob you of all your constitutional rights. And the problem is they didn't know what to do with the extra territory. They pushed all of you people away from the proper territories. That's at least those of you, let's call 67% of you, that basically would belong in group 1, 2, or 3, so to speak, of vestation. And basically these people didn't know how to take advantage of the territory. They pushed people out of the territory. They didn't know how to basically make a bunch of money in it. And into this mix, we have a whole bunch of socialists, communists, and Marxists that are into this mix.
that basically they don't know how to do stimulus. They only know how to do stuff that destabilizes stuff. That's what they're trained to do. This is the problem. The problem is they are trained to be liars, falsely claim that they are loyal to the Constitution of the United States, as the only thing they're actually trained to do is destabilize the nation of the United States and the state, your state or whatever, right here, so state of California. So it's interesting to understand these factors of tax and spend, which is that is destroy, that is destabilize. You take money away from people, they have less. They have less, they don't build as much. That's destabilization. Now, if you enhance them to say, yes, we're going to guarantee you to build, that's stimulation, that makes profits. But they're not interested in profits. They're interested in going uptown and stealing from the rich folks. But they steal from their own. They steal from everybody. They go, okay, well, we have to make a tax that looks fair. They don't understand. Now they're desperate. All this fraud is getting caught. Look at all the fraud getting caught. And they're losing money. They're desperate. Right now they're desperate. They're panicking. They're having secret meetings. And in the secret meetings, they're saying little things. They already know. They look at each other. They already know. They're losing their secret money streams. Their secret money streams, their corruptness of the way they steal and manage money, and they know that they're going to go broke, that they're losing their fraud stimulus, their personal stimulus, their fraud chains. They're losing their fraud streams. So they're desperate to come up with a new series of taxes. Because why? They're not competent to run a forward-moving economy. They don't know how to do it. All they keep doing is leeching off the rest of people that are geniuses, that keep making the economy happen. And it's worse because some of them, they're in it for their own career. They don't care about citizens. They don't care about the Constitution. They have no national pride. These people they're just going to step up and act. They're just nothing but big liars. And many of these people that are like Manchurian candidates, they're true believers in the socialism, in the communism, in the Marxism. They're true believers. So they're either great actors or true believers in some cases, or they get real quiet when they're caught. And I mean, they're just going to say F you once you catch them. So they're criminals. So we have to stop them. And bringing in these types of quantitative compute equipments that I want to do is the way to do this. So I'm the guy who's going to bring, fleets of motorhomes and trucks around to bring Wi-Fi. So it didn't matter whether the web didn't work. See, these people were controlling the web and blacklisting people's lives. So my solution was, I'm going to bring a whole bunch of mobile units that are standalone. That's right, they're standalone. The web doesn't matter. The unit's going to service everybody. And I was going to massively educate and upgrade people, going from location to location, run fleets of vehicles doing this. What happens? I come under violent attack from these people. These people come in, they order everything shut down. They don't want to be held accountable for what they're doing. They're busted red-handed, interfering in elections, committing treason, attacking candidates' campaigns. You can't do that. Major article violations. And the people in court are trying to, there's nothing like handing paperwork sometimes. You go and the judges look at it and they read it and they start shaking at the quality of the evidence. It's so strong, they just can't believe it. They got to take breaks and this and that and all this other stuff. And, well, you have to drop the criminal charges. No, I don't. In fact, it's illegal. Once you catch somebody in government and in elections involved in treason, the law says, the Constitution says, you have to move that forward to its full outcome. So these people are desperately doing everything they can to rig things. And people have seen bad judges. It's far more than that. It's not just about getting bad judges fired. It's about arresting bad judges. When you run into the bad judges and say, well, you did this. Why did you do that? There's no logical reason to do that. We're going to have to examine you closely. We're going to have to interrogate you intensively. And when you find out that these people, because you're going to get a sample, you're going to find some of these people are true believers. They're socialist, communist, or Marxist, and they're true believers. Okay, they're Manchurian candidates. Or they're evil. They're evil. They're in a club and they're evil. They're doing it because that's the way they've decided to go, in a route to go, and they don't care. They're not loyal to the Constitution of the United States. They're barely loyal to each other. They'll snitch each other off pretty fast. So and when you catch these, and then you find the ones that are diabolical, they are flat out as evil as it comes. They have no regret, no remorse, and when they're confronted by what they're doing, they're just going to lie, and they have no real true emotions. They're completely self-centered on their own beingism. These are people so dangerous it's mind-boggling. These are the kind of people that will stroke pens and do so much damage to people's lives that people will be dying in the streets after having everything that they own stolen from them. These people will invent false laws. We're not just talking a little violation of civil rights. We're talking about crimes against humanity. We have Julie Sue. Julie Sue, I've evaluated her. No less than 14 major crimes against humanity. On the world scheme of things, she compares right along pacing with all these people in World War II that were involved in all kinds of mass civil rights violations. The only thing she's short of is, instead of doing death camps, they just push people out with no resources or abilities, as they're not allowed to even build shelter over their head. So they die. You have people dying in the streets. When you see people dying of the elements in the streets, those people, one way or another, are murder victims because other people wouldn't run government properly. This is genocide, people. Look at what you're seeing all over the place. These people, their brains are fried. Do you think all those people fried their brains? Go out and talk with a bunch of people. Do you think all those people fried their brains? I'm going to tell you, you had people that were communist, people that were Marxist, people that were socialist, that ran around sneaking drugs into something people would consume that would burn their brains out. Somebody had a statistic I saw today. 36,000 people are alive right now because we stopped fentanyl from coming in. 110,000 people a year were dying from fentanyl. That's more than Vietnam. And people are pretending as though, it's not a big deal. It's massive. It's massive. So we have to hold people accountable, because they'll never stop. They outnumber us, they'll never stop. The only way to curb part of it, to slow it down, is to show people, when we catch them committing crimes against humanity, when we catch them committing treason, when we catch them doing all this stuff, we don't allow them to plea bargain it down to 2 years, as though a slap on the wrist. No. If they commit treason, and it's a capital crime, they will stand for a capital crime. So if it's the death penalty, it's the death penalty. This is when people look and go, ooh, yeah, if they catch us, they'll kill us. There's 6 billion people in the world. Bring out the tactical table. There's 6 billion people in the world. We're outnumbered. We are vastly outnumbered. There's no way to possibly deal with this if we allow these people to control the laws and say, yeah, serious criminals can do whatever they want. No. No. So, and we have to have a rapid response. We don't have rapid response. We have people that say, well, we'll review it for 6 weeks later, we'll review it. No, there's certain laws that are, it's an immediate emergency. It gets addressed right now. And they're like, no. And they've created all these laws that are diabolically opposing the Constitution. Election rigging is supposed to be completely resolved in 6 weeks. And in the event that election rigging concerning violations of articles is not completely resolved, there's no statute of limitations on it. None. There is no statute of limitations on it. So myself as a candidate, having all this evidence, having all this violence focused at me, having people shoot at me, I'm in a situation, this is people. Do you understand what a RICO witness situation is? How dangerous it is for certain people like me, because I understand how to quantify this stuff. I'm the kind of guy that has evidence. I have evidence on these people. But these people want to control everything from A to Z. The judges, the prosecutors, the police, they want to control everything. And frankly, a lot of people are getting tired of it. You got some judges that are tired of it. You got a few prosecutors out there, they're tired of it. You got a whole lot of cops and sheriffs, they're tired of it. But I'm the guy that has the maximum charges of treason against all these people. So as I've been monitoring and watching this evolution, this evolving of this mass criminal behavior associated with Marxism, communism, socialism, these people with such tremendous hate. I have the evidence and the methodologies to sort these people properly. I have all the answers because I understood how to use quantification properly. That's math. I understand, again, how to use math properly. So I'm the best choice for governor, but they got everything blacklisted. We have companies in California that they blacklist. We have a division of California that deliberately blacklists people. That's treason. The whole building has to be seized. Everybody has to come under arrest. They're committing treason. These are people that are facing life sentences. And these people want to say, oh, no, that's just a little civil right. No, it's not. We have people, they've sectionalized things into little tiny parts, but any given part is the same as the whole when you're talking about treason law. So this is something when you have people that they spy on people, they review information, they have to understand what it is they're doing and who they're working for. They're diabolically opposing the Constitution of the United States. They're involved in committing treason. And there's all these other systems that they don't even understand that exist. We have mass intelligence tactical table tracking to what? We put them in place to track the Russians. We did all kinds of neat stuff. You wouldn't believe how high some of the technology is. It's mind-boggling. Carl Sagan helped develop technology, and people don't even know that. He walked across dishes and scanned his body to prove that you could detect the human biological radio signatures. He died of cancer, and he basically killed himself because of his research. Carl Sagan's a hero, and a lot of people think he's only a fantastic liberal. They don't know anything about the classified research that he did. Because his classified research ended up evolving into something else that became crucial when we got to the Reagan administration. Became crucial in modifying intelligence and understanding things so that we could basically deal with the Russians, because the Russians were hiring. They had 6 to 20 people to one outnumbering us in intelligence officers. So mass compute and specialized surveillance equipment, that's where the big stuff comes in. But that's another lecture entirely by itself. Carl Sagan stood up and says, with a dish, I can read a cell phone if the dish was on Mars. That's the sensitivity rate. He gave big sensitivities and proved it. He says, with a huge dish, 500 miles an hour in space, I could read your brain. I could read your mind. That was Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan, people, they have no idea what he did. The guy is actually a hero in many ways, but people remember him for some of his NASA stuff. So anyhow, we're closing this down, coming down. This is the end of part 3. I hope you enjoyed it. Michael Crosby, yes, I'm running for governor, and I'm trying to restore myself from the last election from attacks. Technically, according to the articles of the Constitution, I'm a candidate under attack by these parties. They're disqualified. They're never allowed to vote again or run for office, and they're disqualified. So technically, by law, I'm supposed to be the governor, but we have mass rebellion ongoing in California.